everyone, this is Miss Gauerke, and today we are going to add yet another element to your Maniac Magee novel study foldable right here in front of you. So make sure you have both of these things ready so you can fill in your plot structure element, which is what we're going to be learning about today. So I am going to talk about each of these elements: the exposition, the conflict, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, the resolution, which are all part of the plot structure right here. And then you, by yourself, are going to fill in each of these for Maniac Magee. I'll do the first one with you, but then I will leave you on your own. But first, let's look at what each of these implots, these boxes, each of these elements have in each of them. So first we have the expedition, which is what I wrote up here in yellow. So the exposition usually happens, or it always happens, in the beginning of the story. So happens in the beginning. Yes, in the beginning of the story. And usually we introduce the characters and the setting, and we see what the story, who and what and where the story is about. So I'm going to say introduces setting and main characters. So it tells where the characters are from and what is taking place. Next we have the conflict, which is the problem of the story. And this conflict is usually part of the expedition. So I'm going to write it kind of a little smaller here in green. So here's our conflict. And everyone knows what the conflict is usually. Conflict. And it is the problem in the story. So really it happens right at the beginning. I'm going to say happens in the beginning also. And authors usually put the conflict right in the beginning to really pique our interest. If there wasn't any conflict in the story, we really wouldn't have a whole lot to read about. So the next one is rising action. Now, rising action occurs when there's a lot of events that build up to the climax of the story. So here is our... So this usually is kind of towards the middle of the story. Not everything happens, but there's quite a pile of events that happen in the story. So here's our rising action. So I'm going to say leads up to the climax. And I'm going to say that the events get complicated. So when you're filling this out right here, you can think about an event that gets complicated in Maniac Magee. And something happens. Next, we have the climax. Now, this is a very main point of the story. Climax. Maybe has a little exclamation point. Climax is, we could even say that it's part of the main idea. The main point. So this is when things get interesting. And where readers have the absolute highest interest and emotion. And we're wondering what happens next, right here in the climax. So main point. It could also be the turning point as well. So things start getting even more messier in the story. Turning point. And we have our highest interest over here. And this is towards right in the middle of the story. We have all of that. All right, let's move the document camera down so we can see the end. All right, falling action. So this is where events start to calm down a little bit. We are calming down. The story is kind of wrapping up and coming to a close. The character is trying to solve his huge mess that he got himself into, which is the climax. So we can say that winding down. This marker is really bad for writing small. And we see events leading up to the resolution, which is where the character starts to solve his problem. Characters try to solve the. All right, characters try to solve the problem. Next, we have the resolution, and I'm going to write super small right down here. And this is where I'm going to write my little bullet points over here. This is where the problem is solved. Yay, the problem is solved. It's all fine and good. And the story ends. Everyone lives happily ever after, or it ends very, very tragically. Whichever story you are reading. All right, so now that you know what all of these lovely plot structure points are, you can start to fill in a few things for Maniac Magee. And make sure to write in complete sentences, my friends. So something that you could start here is you can talk about how we get introduced to Maniac Magee, where he lives, write the conflict, write the rising action of Maniac Magee, what happened that reached the climax. What is the climax of Maniac Magee? What is the falling action of Maniac Magee? And what is the resolution? So all of that should go in that box. Please write about Maniac Magee, not just the definitions that I have here. So once you are done writing about Maniac Magee, you can go on to that next video on how to cut everything out and put it inside of your foldable. I hope everyone has a fantastic time writing the expedition, the conflict, the rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution of Maniac Magee. And I will see you for the next video.